Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the conversation series.
Because creators are businesses.
What we do is not simple.
Give, the fans everything that they deserve.
Being creative
is like doing a 5,000 piece puzzle.
is something that you can learn and do over and over again.
Always be as authentic as I can be.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the conversation series. I am so excited to have Miss Shelly Hughes here with me today. She is the founder and CEO of Nolia Roots, and I am so excited to hop into this incredible company that she's created. So, Shelly, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, this is fun. I'm excited for the chat. Anytime I can talk business with someone that's like-minded, I'm here for it.
I love it. I love it because it's something so cool that you guys have created. And I want to get into, first off, the name is so unique and how you were just explaining, like the end of Magnolia. Why Nolia Roots?
So as most founders know, coming up with a business name is the craziest journey that you go through, right? You don't even have an LLC yet a lot of the time, and you're just like, sometimes it can just stop you from creating a business altogether because you're like, I just need the perfect name, right? And which obviously is not the reason not to start. But Nolia Roots, and two, in coming up with a business name, it's always, is the domain name available, right? That's always the question. So Nolia Roots really came from the word roots. Goes back to my philosophy of marketing. I always say marketing from the roots up. Like I worked at advertising agencies and video production companies and all these amazing companies, but what I kind of quickly realized was a lot of what they did was throw spaghetti against the wall and see what stuck. And here's the thing, like with me, I hate to waste spaghetti. So I always, even from a very young age and early in my career, I was like, this doesn't make sense. Why are we not always going back to like the why and going back to the strategy and always having strategy first? So the roots part was very clear. Nolia actually came from the magnolia tree. We have a magnolia tree in our backyard, and it's this big, beautiful tree, but it only blooms for about, 2 weeks every year. Where I'm from, Philadelphia, it's usually about 1 week because there's this random frost that comes and kills all the flowers, right? So that really teaches me, and that tree really teaches me why it's my favorite, to be very present and be very mindful and just to take in things as they come. So kind of put those two words together, and it's just also a conversation starter. So why not?
I love it. I love the roots part of that, and it's so important. And I love that the working from the roots up, but I am going to steal the spaghetti line that I don't like to waste spaghetti because it makes me think of Friends episode where him and Rachel are throwing spaghetti or it's dropping, and I'm like, that's what I think of with that.
It's like and Joey picks it up. He's like, "Come on, don't waste it."
Don't waste it.
I spaghetti is one of my go-to meals, and it
Love
lasts for a couple days. And you don't waste this, especially when you have babies at home. You don't waste any food.
Yes, exactly, exactly. I do want to get into that the very moment that you can recollect of, I need to create Nolia Roots. What is the moment that it was that time to create your business?
There was no kind of aha moment of I needed to create this business. I have always wanted to be an entrepreneur ever since I could remember. I didn't come from an entrepreneurial background, so it's kind of unique in that way. Where I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs, they grew up around it, they know it. I did not grow up with, this even language. Until later on, I kind of learned more about it. And at first, actually, I really wanted to start a nonprofit. Um, but then I realized that I move way too fast for nonprofits, and that simply it was not the right path for me at the time. So, I really wanted to give back to my community, and I wanted to start a nonprofit, and I wanted to be a business owner, but I wasn't exactly sure how all this was going to work. And then I realized, my background is in advertising agencies and business startups, and I have this amazing combination of, advertising and marketing and business and sales and all these different things. Why don't I start an ad agency or a marketing agency that caters toward purpose-driven brands? So that's really where Nolia Roots came and why we exist today.
I love that your experience built up, and I resonate with you on the I didn't grow up in an entrepreneurship household, but I started at a very young age of, you got the lemonade stands, and then it moves into
Oh
something
yeah.
else. I had a jewelry business, and then it was all these things, and it's just always carried through. But I never had any of that entrepreneurship growing up around me at all.
No, no. And I think sometimes it makes me feel like I'm a little bit less than, especially in the beginning. I always felt like, oh, like, am I actually good at this? All these people that I talk to every day, they had extremely chaotic upbringings, or they had, Dan Martell says that if you have chaotic upbringings, you're going to be a great entrepreneur, right? And that's, we can get into, some of the programs that we're launching this year with, that mentality in mind. But yeah, so I always thought I was kind of less than on the entrepreneurial scale because I didn't have that tough upbringing and I didn't have entrepreneurial parents. But I realized that, if entrepreneurship is really darn hard, and I've had to figure out how to make life hard outside of the business,
Yeah.
with discipline and, just putting myself in really challenging situations outside of the business, because it's only going to make me tougher, in the ups and downs and tribulations of entrepreneurship.
Go ahead and lead me into the programs you guys are launching with that mentality, because I love that mentality.
Yeah, so two of my biggest passions are mentorship, really bringing up the next generation of leaders, and supporting the business community. Those are two of my big passions, and so we're actually doing a couple things to help with that. The first one, we are launching a program called One Day. It is a youth entrepreneurship mentor program in the Philadelphia region where we are supporting. High school age kids that are kind of coming from, somewhat underrepresented areas. And we're kind of teaming them up with these amazing mentors in the Philadelphia region that are also they're business owners, business leaders, heads of marketing departments, things like that, to basically teach them step by step how to find a problem, figure out how a business can solve that problem, and then building out a business plan and having kind of a business ready to launch. It really, I think these kids specifically are just so primed to be entrepreneurs because of their chaotic upbringing. But entrepreneurship and our current school, institutions, they're not set up to encourage entrepreneurship or really leadership in general. And so I'm like, okay, these kids are so primed because of their experiences to be such good entrepreneurs and business leaders, but the schools that they're going to don't even tell them that it's really an option, let alone encourage it. So it's going to be a 9-month program for the 2025-2026 school year. It's called One Day, and we're going to have, monthly workshops and mentorship opportunities. So every month we can start, building up this business plan for these kids that, they can launch when they graduate.
It's such an important piece is this younger generation. Like there's only so much we can do for ourselves today, but what is this next generation that we can truly have an impact on that's coming up, that's in school, that is eager to learn and is in this just right phase just to be able to help.
Yeah. And two, our internship program at Nolia Roots is also very unique in that way. So we have a 6-month internship program, because you can't get what you need out of an internship for less than 6 months. And so the first 3 months they're sponges, they absorb everything, but the second 3 months we challenge them to create their own micro agency, to brand the agency, to name it, to assign each other roles and responsibilities. And then what we do is we find a client partner that we think that number one is doing really great things in our community or, local community or global community. And we actually have the intern team get pitched to choose what client partner that they want to work with. And that intern team in the second 3 months of their internship actually does a pro bono project for this client partner. So again, it's kind of combining a lot of my passions of mentorship and extreme ownership and these kids, not kids, these are college age students, but these future leaders really getting an idea of what it takes to lead a project beginning to end. And it's helping an organization, for profit or nonprofit, that is just doing really good stuff. So yeah, so lots of similar themes in the business and the programs we're launching.
Very cool. It was one of my favorite things about where I went to college and how I graduated. Like my business program was so cool. I went to NC State University and our whole thing is think and do. And so when I got to my 300 and 400 level classes, it got to be the point that we were like actually during the semester creating business plans and working with businesses, either large or small in the community. And we were then presenting, but we were with these businesses and having real conversations with them. And it was the best because not only did I walk out of college with 2 years of internship experience from these classes, it helped me see all these different areas of business that was just mind blowing and eye opening to me to be able to see that before I even got out into what we call the real world.
Yeah, and it's so amazing when you actually have your own client and you can truly own a
Yeah.
project, it just completely changes how you think about it and how you approach it. And it brings up all these new problems that, I wish I had when I was going through it.
You talk a lot about helping business leaders find the freedom to live more, and we would all love the ability to, the work less and be able to live more mentality. But how does that philosophy influence how you run your own business?
Yeah, so, many people when they start a business, they think that the reason that a lot of people start a business is because they want control over their time, their money, and their craft, right? When you start a business and you're in the grind, you quickly realize you don't have control of any of those things sometimes when early on. And so one of the things that I really push for is truly thinking, how can I design this business to fit my ideal lifestyle design, right? Because the last thing you want to do when you start a business is for you to be your own boss.
Yep.
That's not the goal, right? The goal isn't to be a job where you are your boss. Your goal is for you to build something that you're truly passionate about. And, when you do work, you never get up and you know, you're regretting having to go to work that day, right? So, a lot of what we do is helping clients kind of get out of the day to day of what they're doing. And here's the thing, I technically we're a marketing agency, but really the deep conversations I have with clients just about their business model and what they want to do and where they want to go, like that's truly what inspires me, and that's what gets me excited. And when you kind of lift up that skirt a little bit, you truly understand what the motivations are, and it allows, telling their story to be much easier and much more genuine, right? And telling the story, meaning in marketing, whether it's PR or social media or whatever it is. Um, so yeah, I mean, you don't you want to make sure that you're building a company where it is aligned with your lifestyle design. So, for example, I would be a terrible restaurateur. I don't like to stay up late. I like to be home, right? I'm kind of
Yeah.
a homebody in a lot of ways. I would be a terrible restaurateur, right? So why would I go and open a restaurant?
Yeah.
Or, I love this Philadelphia region because to be completely honest, I don't want to travel for work, right? So I'm not actively looking for a ton of clients that are out of kind of the mid, Atlantic region, because that isn't what's going to align with my ideal lifestyle design. And two, it's figuring out, and I think I'm pretty good at this, is it's hiring a team that really aligns with your vision so that and being really trusting of your team and putting those SOPs together so that you don't feel like you have to micromanage and th- they're essentially then your boss, right? Because you're running after them trying to make sure everything is good. So I think it's all ties into leadership and building something that you feel like is just beyond you. It's like the legacy that you're leaving behind.
Is an incredible talent, at least from my perspective, putting together a team that just kicks ass. It's an incredible talent, and I applaud you for doing it because it's one thing that I don't think is highlighted enough and people don't see it as a talent, but it truly is to put together a team that is just efficient. You've got different perspectives. People are creative. Maybe they're left brain, right brain, but you guys are working together in an efficient way and are just doing great work for the people that are coming to you.
Well, you also have to know what motivates them, right? So if money motivates, cool. Like don't fight that, right? Right now we're talking we have a profit share opportunity at Nolia Roots. Because I realize that money motivates. And I don't want to be the sole owner of, this company or any of the companies that I start. I want to make sure that equity is given out when it makes sense. I want to make sure profits are given out and handed out like, like Lucky Charms. And just so people feel really valued, because the last thing you want is an unproductive staff. And of course, it all goes back to kind of like your mission, your vision, why you exist. And our clients are amazing, and that really helps. We have a very strict vetting process of our clients. So we have a very strict no asshole rule, and all of our clients have some kind of extra secret sauce behind what they do. They have a lot of heart behind what they do. So marketing them is much more fun, right? It's something that we feel like we can get behind because they're doing really good stuff. So yes, that is very important, but it's also how figuring out how you can grow this business not alone. How can you grow this business where other people feel not just feel like they are connected to it in some way, but truly have a piece of the pie?
The no asshole rule. That's fantastic. And
Not many, I've worked at agencies where they did not have that rule. And it sucks. You go to work and work sucks,
you
right?
hate it.
And you hate it.
Yeah.
Why would we? I've had to hire. So it's so funny. The first client I ever hired, I was pregnant with my first son. And this was back when I was pretty much a solopreneur. And I was working kind of more as kind of fractional CMO for a lot of clients right after COVID
Yeah.
as they were trying to figure out their stuff. Um, and I remember I was pregnant and I was talking to one of my clients. This was a female owned business. The owner of the business had 5 kids of her own, and she basically said that almost word for word in the nicest way possible. She said, "I'm going to squeeze you for all you're worth, but when you have this baby, I'm going to have to fire you." And I was like, "Okay, like women supporting women, let's do it. Like love that for us." And I, respectfully said like I think I'm gonna do the hard work for you, and I fired that client pretty quickly. And it's just amazing that the and you have to say yes to, especially in the very beginning, you have to say yes to projects. But if you keep repeating over and over and over again the kind of clients that you do the best work for,
Yeah.
those are the clients that are going to find you. And that's what we found. We help grow the impact of purpose-driven brands, for profit or nonprofit. And the amount of clients that have come to us saying, "Hey, you get it, you understand, you value actually what we do." It just, you gotta say it into the universe and it'll come.
Amen. Amen to that. I completely agree. You guys emphasize the brand that branding is about the why and not just the what. Is there a common mistake that when clients are coming to you that they're making when trying to define that why?
Hmm. Yeah. A few different things. So I think you know, many companies, especially when they get to a certain point, there's lots of silos in the company, right? Leadership, really thinks about product, like business, we'll call it like business, sales, and marketing. They're all very siloed when they get to a certain point. Business, meaning, leadership and executive team, they think of product, right? The sales team really thinks of numbers, and the marketing team, they understand the importance of storytelling and the why and all that kind of stuff. And of course, leadership understands the why, but sometimes they just get so focused on like features and benefits and why people should buy this product and how to innovate the product, and that the three of those, I'll call them departments, really don't talk to one another. And
Yeah.
so a lot of what we do when we come in to support clients is we help unsilo those three, elements of a business, to say, the sales team should be talking about the why, right? Leadership should be, communicating it to the rest of the, the business, where ideally, every single person on your team should be a brand ambassador.
Yeah.
Every single person on your team, if someone asks you, "Hey, where do you work for?" You don't want them just to say, "Oh, I work for this marketing agency, Nolia Roots." That's not what you want them to say. You want to say, "Oh, I'm working at this firm that really helps grow the impact of purpose-driven brands. We do so through X, Y, and Z, and we're different because because of this, right? You never, you don't want this generic answer in any one of your employees. So always communicating, always kind of going deeper into why you exist as a brand that not only brings people in and feels more connected, but it also helps them be brand ambassadors themselves. And it's really unsiloing those, like I said, departments, for lack of a better term, within your business, so that everyone's kind of saying the same thing. Because if you have a really amazing storytelling campaign through digital marketing, for example, but your salespeople are just, kind of just playing price and trying to
Yes.
race to the bottom on price, first of all, you're losing money, and there's this amazing opportunity for sales and marketing to work together. So I think that's the biggest thing, when it comes to what businesses do wrong when really trying to communicate their why.
I love that because I think it's very relatable for everybody to understand that siloing. And if it's not happening in a bigger business, like I would love to know who you work for because it's a massive thing, whether it's just inside the marketing department or whether it's across the entire company. It's a very hard thing that as you continue to grow and grow and grow, that people have a hard time either not siloing or getting out of those silos.
Yeah, and it's just such a waste of resources too, how are you supposed to have consistency in what you do if your sales and marketing teams don't talk to one another? How do you know, if there's promotions going on, or if there, how, and it's the infrastructure you have on the back end too, of like your CRMs. What does the intake look like from your website? How do people get to your website? What is the promise that they have,
Absolutely.
when they get to your site? Then what happens on your site to transfer them into a lead?
Yeah.
And then do they just get pushed off to sales, and sales has to figure out who these people are? Or can there be a better communication between everything? That and two, I understand some small businesses, they don't have the resources to be able to put all that together. But with automation nowadays, and there's at least low fidelity ways that you can combine those.
I mean, I've had it in experience just as a part of a marketing team that it was just so siloed and it's definitely gotten better, but it's something that you always have to be conscientious about because it's something that you can fall into so quickly.
And what did you find with those silos? Where did you find that there was the most opportunity cost?
I think it was purely communication for us because it was one that we would get into campaigns and it'd be this particular group. And then the larger group would maybe be asked questions, and then they're like, I have no idea what the heck you were talking about, except this smaller group was the only group that knew about it. So, how is
Mhm.
it busting down and opening those communication channels up so everybody, it's really visible to everybody, whether they need to know about it or not, but it's still public so people have an understanding that, like, okay, yes, we know what these things are happening, or if we don't, we have an opportunity to go learn in these particular channels.
Right. And people especially and besides, the opportunity cost in terms of like revenue and being able to recognize these opportunities quickly and jump on them and things like that. It's also, people don't buy from companies anymore. They join tribes. And so if your company isn't a tribe,
Yeah.
then no one's going to want to join it.
Yeah.
Right. So if your company doesn't feel connected and going back to the why, right? If there's no comprehensive and kind of centralized, why are we here? Why do we exist? What is our purpose? And something that people can really get behind, and you hire people with those same values and they want to every single day get 1% closer to that vision that the company has, why would anyone buy from you, right? It's you turn into such a commodity
Yeah.
if you focus on the features and benefits of what you have going on. That can happen when there are silos in the business of like, okay, I know, check, check, check. We like these are our features and benefits,
Yeah.
right? Um, but if you're really able to build a business that turns into this tribe
Love
with
that.
the employees and the departments in-house, then it's so much easier to bring in customers that have those same values. And even if you are more expensive, they're going to choose you. Even and that lifetime customer value is just going to skyrocket because they're never going to leave.
I love that you said that. In a tribe, like, it's so important. I think it comes back to the leadership you were talking about. Like, if you've got great leadership and you've got this great tribe of people together, one, you don't hate working. Like, you love coming to work every single day, and you've got this great group that's just ready to go tackle everything together.
And I think leadership is where it all starts. And I've had amazing leaders
Yeah.
in the past above me, and I've had not so amazing leaders. And I've learned so much from every single one of them about what to do, what not to do. And, I'm not perfect in any way, but I definitely think that if you're able to just continually communicate. And I was just told this the other day, someone on my team mentioned to me that, I have all these ideas and I have all these visions and they're not 100% yet, right? They're kind of, 25%, some are even 10%,
Yeah.
but I'm working so hard and I'm making all these decisions. And someone on my team the other day said, "Hey, Shell, you have a lot of these ideas and you're making decisions very quickly. I think you have to communicate to the team of why you're making these decisions on a high level, even if those ideas aren't fully developed yet." And I was like, "You're absolutely right." Like that was such a huge pillar in the very beginning of the business. I always wanted to start with the why. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? But I think as you move so quickly in business, you kind of forget like, okay, who did I bring along? Who am I dragging by their coattails to along with me? And who have I not even communicated this yet? And I think that's one of the hardest parts of business is, my mind is moving so quickly and I'm making such I'm very aggressive in my decision making, that I really had to be reminded recently that you always have to start with the why. Because if you start with the why, then people are going to question you if they don't agree with your decisions.
I love that I have somebody else on this call that has a very active mind because I feel like some days I'm like, I need this thing to turn off, but it's not because I've got so many things just going on, whether it's like massive to-do list or things that are popping up. Like, I'm like, oh my God, I need to remember to do this.
Danielle, have you ever, I did this today and I'm like, Shelly, you got to chill out. I clicked on a web page and
Yep.
it took more than a full second to load. And
Yeah.
I'm like, this is taking too long. And I switched over to another task. Literally, I'm like, Shelly, that's not okay. Like, wait a full like second and a half for the web page to load. And I was like, this is too slow. And I
I,
I moved over, I was doing two tasks at once, and I'm like, I can't do it. I can't. Multitasking, I don't believe in it. It's not good. And sometimes my brain moves just too fast that I'm like, okay, too slow. You're being
I
left
love to
behind.
make the analogy that like some days for me it's just like, oh, this person needs this thing, but I need to post this. I'm like, this person needs this other person needs this. I describe it as like I'm a squirrel trying to find a nut, going back and forth between all these different things, and I'm like, oh, 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 oh.
And not a single one of those things are checked off.
No.
You're like you're a quarter of the way here, and then you move over here. And a long time ago, I really rejected the idea of multitasking. And which is so funny, right? When we started looking for our first jobs, the
Yeah.
first thing we had on our resume under skills was able to multitask. Was I really able to multitask well? Not really, but I knew that's what people wanted to see,
Yeah.
right? And it really wasn't until I had kids that I realized, and I had moms in my life that they're like, oh, when you have kids, you're going to be an amazing multitasker. And I'm like, that sounds terrible. But I had kids and I realized that multitasking was so much less important when you have kids and when you have things that truly matter in your life, right? I remember one time my oldest was probably about 6 months old. I had I was talking to someone about a tech issue and I was
Yeah.
waiting for the response and I was in the kitchen and my son was crying and I was trying to respond to this thing and I wasn't responding fast enough and I had a complete breakdown. I'm like, Shelly, when you have your kids, you are not working. You
Yeah.
can't. You can't work. And I really try to take that philosophy into everything that I do because there is no way that you can give everything that's very important in your life or just like even just in front of you on your desk the
Yeah.
attention that it deserves if you're focusing on more than one thing. And so for me in that moment, my kid didn't get the best of me. My client that I was trying to solve this problem for didn't get the best of me. And this poor technician who was just trying to help me simply did not get the best of me. And so it's like I'm failing all these people around me, including myself, right? And that was the day I said, no more.
Yeah.
I can't. Multitasking doesn't work.
I'm one of those people that like, yes, I've got a mobile calendar, I've got a digital calendar, but I'm someone who is so written that I've got like notes just scattered about in like a planner where I have like a to-do list and everything. Because if it's not written down, I'm like, mm-mm, bye bye, it's going somewhere else. It's just there's not that ultimate focus on that at that very time.
But then how do you prioritize? Because I feel like when I have all these post-it notes, I'm like, okay, I sit down and I start to work. Like what needs to get done now, right?
Yeah.
I think it changes a lot. So when you have this super long to-do list, how do you prioritize that?
I think it's on that very day and in that time. For me, it's hard because I work in a position where I work social media. So being in social media, like it's harder because people think they need their thing out at that very time, at that very moment. And so for me, it's really just about, okay, 9 to 5 is full-time job for me. Anything that falls into that 9 to 5 for this job is the priority. And then outside those hours, then I just go and I say, okay, this client needs this done today, or this needs to be edited so this can get over to this client, whatever that may be. It's mostly just a daily task of me saying, here are these clients, and I'm so written. I'm such a written person that I've got every client has their written line in terms of, okay, this edit needs to go over here, this edit needs to go over here, this needs to get posted. That everything has its time and place, that it's kind of the groove that I just have to get into.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah. Man, if you can dominate the 5 to 9 and then the 5 to 9 p.m., if you can dominate those hours, massive.
The five
Massive.
to nine in the morning is my favorite.
It's the best.
It's the best, and I have such a hard time explaining it to people because people who are not like a content creator or an entrepreneur have no idea that it's like it is the best time because no one messes with you. It is your time to sit there and have a you time and get the things that you need to get done.
Right. And even as an entrepreneur, you're 9 to 5, a lot of times when you're in it and you're too involved in the business, and it happens, right? It happens. Um, that's when, the the important stuff gets done that your team decides is important.
Yep.
The 5 to 9 in the morning, that's when the magic really happens. I remember, I used to get up at before my second was born, and his sleep is all super crazy. So it can't happen right this second. First of all, sleep is the most important thing. Sleep is the ultimate, like we talk about biohacking.
Yeah.
Sleep is the ultimate biohack. If you can figure out your sleep, you can figure out anything. So I never, very rarely, I do stay up super late sometimes, just getting stuff done after the kids go to bed. But if you can try to be really consistent with that, it's important. But there was a time where I was able to get to sleep early, and my kid was old. My first was old enough. I didn't have my second yet, and man, that time between like 5 a.m. and like 7:30 before my kid woke up, it was I just got so much done. I got so much done. So many Loom videos that I sent in my robe, because don't get me wrong, I was not dressed in any way. Um, but yeah, it's magic.
Can I say too, like some of the stuff that being in this position, like some of the stuff that even just around the house, like laundry basket is clean clothes needs to be folded. Guess what? That 5 to 9 in the morning when nobody is bugging you, I can unload the dishwasher. I can load the dishwasher and start it. All of these things, like it's just so nice to be able to have that time that whatever you feel has fallen by the wayside
Yeah.
can get done in that very short amount of time.
And you have time, and you have this mental space to like do that ideal morning startup ritual,
Yeah.
right? I remember when I did my 5 to 9 a.m., I would get up, um and I would meditate for 5 minutes, just like really try to get my brain cleared as the coffee was brewing. I'd meditate for 5 minutes. Right after that, I would journal for probably, 5, 10 minutes, whatever it is. I would drink my coffee. I would take my dog for a walk. And man, it would be like 6:30, and I'm like, oh, well,
Yeah, it's so much.
I feel so productive. And if you don't do it the first thing, it's really, really hard to make it consistent, right? So it's like if you get up early and you have those early hours, you just have the time and the space and the mental space to have that ideal, just that perfect wake up to really start your day.
It's magical. It really is a magical time that even by that 9 a.m. you're like, whew,
I've lived 5 lifetimes by 9 a.m.
it's great. It's fantastic. It's one of my favorite. I absolutely love it. I think it's the best time. And then you're just like the moments where you're like, oh, sun's rising. It's really pretty out today.
I know, I know. It's yeah. If people can, and there are some people that are night owls and do it the opposite, right? If you're a night owl, like not anyone is the exact same, but um, I one of my interns the other day, he asked me, he was like, "Hey, I'm really struggling with time management. Can you help me figure this out?" I'm like, "Wake up at 5." He's like, "Yeah, but I don't really want to do that. Like, how else can I?" I'm like, "Wake up at 5. I don't know what to tell you." And it gets to a point where you actually become an adult and you get over your own
Yeah.
self, where you realize like, wow, that was yeah, I was just being a big old complainer, and I just didn't want to get up early and I was lazy, right? And it goes back to that discipline, right? It's that discipline of, if your alarm goes off
Get up.
and you do not hit that snooze button, you have won for the day. You have officially done probably one of the hardest things you will have to do that entire day.
Yeah.
And going back to, I had a very amazing upbringing. I had a very amazing parents who loved me, and I had wonderful Christmases and, all this stuff. And compared to a lot of my other entrepreneurial, counterparts who they might have had pretty chaotic upbringings, and that's why they're such good entrepreneurs. I have to make sure I have to work even harder to make sure that I keep up that discipline and I challenge myself outside of the business,
Yeah.
so that when things go wrong in the business, I can keep my cool, right? Because it does every day. The challenges that I have to solve are the ones that no one else in the company wants to solve because they're too hard, right? So I have to be the one to make all the hard decisions. I have to be the one to put out the biggest and most dangerous fires every single day. And I think a lot of entrepreneurship is just staying cool and calm and making quick decisions.
Yeah.
Like I said, that aggressive decision making that I really focus on. And so, not hitting that snooze button is the first thing that's going to prove to yourself that you got this. The second thing is, I go to an MMA gym. I coach Krav Maga, for women's seminars and things like that. But I get my ass beat 3 times a week. I get punched in the face
Love it.
3 times a week by these 200, 250 pound men,
Yeah.
right? And I'm this like 137 pound female that just had a baby and, I barely have my abs back from, and, so it's like, damn, like, yeah, I'm getting my ass kicked, right? And so anything that happens in the business, I'm like, this is nothing compared to what I had to deal with like last night on the mats, getting arm barred by these massive humans.
Amen. Amen. I every week I go and I'm in the gym 5 days a week, or I'm doing something physical at least 5 days a week,
Nice.
the minimum for me.
That's amazing.
I'd like this morning had a 3.5 mile run. It was crappier this morning. I'm like, all right, I'm going to the gym, get on the treadmill. But every week I have a trainer. Her name's Kaylee. She's 4'11" and she just kicks my ass
Yes.
every week. And I'm like, my legs are shaking. I can't walk up and down stairs, or I can't do shampoo and conditioner my hair. And I'm like, but that's what I need to be able to just have a productive day in my eyes, just to be able to get my ass beat
Yeah.
on my
Yeah.
own terms, at least.
On your own terms, right. And
I
I think,
chose to do that ass beating.
and as humans, we're so, complacency and being comfortable are so innate to what we're looking for, right? As humans, we don't like change. We like homeostasis. We like routine. We like these things, right? Um, but I feel like comfortability is the quickest way to age. And that's why like ice plunges and all these things are getting more because people are realizing, again, back to biohacking, people are realizing that if you put your body under small amounts of stress over and over and over, not enough to put you in AFib by any means, but like it is going to make your entire, like to a cellular level, you're going to age slower. You're going to be more resilient. And I say all the time, I say to my team, how can we prioritize growth over comfort today, right? And I think for so long I was, and I know a lot of people are, we confuse being busy with being productive. And
Amen.
so like, we have these big goals, right? We have these 5-year goals and um which by the way, I don't believe in 5-year goals, but that's a different point. But we have these goals and we I was like, this is where I want to be, right? And we're busy every single day. We go to work and our schedules are full and we are exhausted by the end of the day. We're just like moving and grooving. We're just busy. But then 5 years goes by and we realize we're not that far off from where we were in the beginning. And that's why it's like, okay, how do you get out of that uncomfortable state? And it's so hard to. Sometimes I'll look up and be like, I'm getting a little comfortable. Like this isn't good. Like, okay, I'm obviously not doing enough to
Yeah.
push this business or any of my other businesses forward. If I'm starting to feel a little bit comfortable, okay, how can I get uncomfortable? Who should I be talking to that is going to be a really uncomfortable conversation? How do we, and it's that difference in of not confusing being productive with being busy because they are two very, very different things.
I always say when I get into a position of comfortability or I'm just turning knobs, I'm like, all right, it's time to go and work or find something new to be doing because it's not it anymore. It's not fulfilling. It's just not doing anything.
But a lot of times it's, so my last job, I was not comfortable in that job. Again, like leadership issues and all that kind of stuff, but I truly felt like I wanted to do something different, but and I wasn't comfortable. I was very uncomfortable in that job. Just it just wasn't a good place for me to be. But thinking about quitting the job and trying to find another job or starting a business or whatever, that sounded even scarier. So I like wanted to stay in my mild discomfort because because even thinking about the unknown or like, okay, me having to solve the problem that I was in sounded so scary and just the extreme side of discomfort, right? Um, but here I am. I, it's you have to just have the discipline and the confidence to say, this is what I have to do for me because I cannot progress
Yeah,
anymore.
absolutely. I love that too because I mean, you just have to keep moving. You have to keep growing but growing sometimes is just it's uncomfortable and it's something that people are really scared to do. But
And
it's
and a lot of times, I think our parents, like their generation, um, a lot of them, they were very, they had pensions and
yeah,
they were I mean, both my parents, they worked for 30, 40 years in the same company, right? Because it was super comfortable and that's what everyone did back then,
yep.
right? And so when I'm their daughter and their oldest daughter and I'm like, I want to start a business, they're like,
Oh,
is
no.
that really a is that a good idea? Where's your health insurance going to come from?
Yeah.
How are you going to get money? People are going to pay you for that? And I'm like, okay. And that's when I quickly realized that I have different circles in my life, right? I have that if you're in that circle, you're in it. I talk to you about everything about that topic, right? So my business circle, like there are very few people in that business circle. And if you're not in that business circle, I don't mention business to you. Not because I don't love you or because I don't want you, but if you don't get it, business is already so turbulent emotionally that my business cannot afford
Yep.
any more turbulation or, fear or anything else to get through that circle. So the other day, my mom, she's my best friend. I love her to freaking death. I mentioned this equity opportunity that I was going to invest in for another business. And I was like, oh shit, I shouldn't have mentioned that. And just the other day, she was like, so how's that investment opportunity going with that one company? I was like, it's fine because I knew that it's just different. Do I always make the best decisions? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But what is amazing about aggressive decision makings and making and just going for it and just doing it is 99% of those decisions, if they're the wrong ones, like no one's gonna die,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
No one's life is on the line,
Yeah.
right?
I love that. And I love that you mentioned the circles because it's so funny. Even the flip side for me is like my mom is the same way as your mom. Like I'm like right over the head sometimes. I'm like, we're not gonna have those topics of conversation. But my dad, who's been in business for 35 years plus, he has been a huge mentor for me and just somebody that I've learned so much from that I can bring things to. And he's like, I got it. I understand what you're talking about. I think it's if you don't have somebody that doesn't understand it, you're like, it's not worth the breath to be able to say the words to you to help you understand what I'm trying to say.
And it might be, right? But I truly think as entrepreneurs, we have this like you have to run off of a little bit of fear, right? You have to run off of like crap, like this might not work. I gotta like work my ass and make sure I make payroll and like build something that people are really attached to and you do have sometimes this fear that creeps in, um but you can't let that fear stop you from doing any of the things you do. And you can really only have conversations with people that are encouraging you, right? The second you have a conversation with someone that like doesn't totally get it, you're like, oh, maybe I'm not doing the right thing, or like maybe I don't get it either. Is this really what I should be doing? And it just completely
That fear and doubt.
screeches so much to a halt,
Yeah.
that your business just can't afford. And it's not their fault, right? It's not their fault. Um, Again, my mom is my absolute best friend.
Yeah.
It's just, I have different circles. I have my business circle. I have my marriage circle that I don't let some people in. I have my parenting circle that I definitely don't let some people in. And both my kids, I birthed them without medication. And man, I like that circle was like tight. Like no one was in that circle because I'm like, I cannot
I
have
don't need
anyone
the
tell
opinion.
me that this is a bad idea and that I should get an epidural and I should go with a
Yeah.
MD and not a midwife. And
Oh yeah.
because like it's super scary to have your first kid and you're like, I don't need medicine, right? I did it with both my kids, but like that was a tiny circle and you just can't let fear enter that circle with people that don't understand your why and why you're doing it.
I love it. My last question for you, Shelly, is just in this entrepreneurship space that you were in, what continues to build that flame of passion for you?
I value relationships
Mm.
over sales every single day of the week. I, that we are social creatures. We need to rely on one another. We can't do things on our own. And when I'm able to serve my circle, like that's when I feel so good. Because what happens, I said this the other day to my team, right? Have your eyes wide open to possibilities and opportunities and have your jaw and your fists unclenched, right? Be relaxed and be open to possibilities and just receive, receive, receive. And, when I serve my circle and I serve them so authentically and without anything to ask back from them, you know, and I do this very intentionally. When I want something from someone, I make sure that I serve them between 5 and 10 times before I ask them for something.
Okay.
So like, and it's just something that I don't think I've ever really told anyone that. I think it's just something that I kind of do quietly. But if I'm like, okay, this person, I really want this person to introduce me to X, Y, and Z because I think they'd be a really great client of ours or whatever. Um, I might send that person a book, right? I'm like, hey, I thought you would really like this.
Yeah.
I might send them a couple articles, or I might say, hey, I'm going to introduce you to someone because I think you'd make a good connection.
Yeah.
I try before I ask for anything, I try to serve that person between 5 and 10 times
Okay.
so that when I do ask for that thing, I know that I really deserve it,
Yeah.
right? So, fueling that fire is building that circle and really tending to it, like tending to those relationships because they're only going to give you amazing ideas. They're only going to be your biggest evangelists and your biggest cheerleaders. And we're in this together, right? You know, last year, a couple of really stressful things happened in the business, and I texted three different people, and they're like, I'll cancel all my meetings. Call me right now. Like
Yeah.
that's what keeps me going. It's it's just the people I can serve inside and outside of the business.
I love that. I don't think that's something you see too often, but I love that you do that for other people because it just sets a really nice foundation for a great relationship.
And it's just very selfless,
Yeah.
right? This is not about me at all.
Yeah.
It can't be. And I think, a level of narcissism is actually pretty healthy in some ways, right? Um, but at the same time, if you're just constantly thinking about you, then it's and you cannot build a business yourself,
Yeah.
right? You can't. My priorities are number one, my husband is my top priority because without him, like my family crumbles, everything crumbles, right? My husband's my number one. The rest of my family is number two, including my kids. My employees are number three
Yeah.
before even the business, right? Because they are the ones that are truly making this business what it is. Um, and my circle's number four, right? I can start any business I want if I have like those four things. And it's tending to them and caring for them and not doing it in kind of a sporadic way, but and it takes a lot of time. It takes a ton of time,
Yeah.
but it's all just for the greater good.
Thank you so much for sitting down with me today. I so appreciate it and letting me pick apart your mind and your entrepreneurship brain. I love it.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate the conversation. I kind of forgot we were on a podcast for a good like 45
I
minutes,
love
which
it.
I guess is the best
It's the best thing.
way
That's
to
what I
go.
always aim to have happen here. It's my ultimate goal.
Good. I love it so much. Well, thank you for having me.
Yes, and you guys, I'm gonna have Shelly's socials linked down below. I'm gonna have Nola Roots socials linked down below. So please go give them a follow. And as always, I will see you guys back here next time. Bye,
Cool.
y'all.
Thank you.